Star Wars: The Phantom Menace is the film that launched the prequel trilogy, a spectacle that dared to show us how Darth Vader began. But even 25 years later, this film is still hiding secrets. Did you know the surviving apprentice was originally supposed to steal his dead master's name? Or that the first design for Darth Maul was so terrifying, George Lucas screamed and slammed the folder shut? Today, we're uncovering 16 hidden truths about The Phantom Menace 1999, including shocking Easter eggs that reveal a secret connection to 2001: A Space Odyssey. Number 1. The scrapped alternate ending. In October 2024, concept artist Ian McKay sat down for a 25th anniversary interview with the official Star Wars website and casually dropped one of the biggest reveals in prequel history. He explained that in the original version of the story, the two Jedi leads had their names swapped. The older master was called Obi-Wan, and the younger apprentice was called Qui-Gon. At the end of the film, the older Obi-Wan would die fighting Darth Maul, and the surviving apprentice, Qui-Gon, would not only take on his fallen master's quest to train Anakin, but would also adopt his master's name, becoming Obi-Wan. That means the Obi-Wan we know from the original trilogy was never the real Obi-Wan. And there is actually a line that supports this. In Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope, when Luke mentions the name Obi-Wan Kenobi, Alec Guinness responds, "Obi-Wan." Now that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. For decades, we assumed he simply meant no one had called him that since going into hiding. But if Lucas had kept the original twist in Phantom Menace, that line would have carried a completely different meaning because it was never his name to begin with. According to Ian McKay, Lucas ultimately changed this at the very last moment, most likely because he felt the story worked better as something simpler and more straightforward. Number 2. Two tributes to Stanley Kubrick. The Phantom Menace hides not one, but two references to Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. The first is physical. When Qui-Gon and R2-D2 walk through Watto's junkyard on Tatooine, one of the discarded pieces of mechanical junk sitting in the background is an EVA pod, the same kind of spherical spacecraft Dave Bowman uses in the climax of Kubrick's film. The second reference is verbal. When young Anakin first activates C-3PO, the droid says, "I am completely operational, and all of my circuits are functioning perfectly." That is the exact same line spoken by the HAL 9000 computer in 2001. Two nods to the same film, one you can see and one you can only hear. Number 3. The nightmare that created Darth Maul. When George Lucas asked concept artist Ian McKay to design Darth Maul, the only direction he gave was that the character should be a vision from your worst nightmare. McKay took that literally. He imagined a dead white face with glittering eyes, sharp metal teeth, and blood-red ribbons falling over the face like rain. He drew it, slid the folder across to Lucas, and watched him open it. Lucas looked at it, shrieked, slapped the folder shut, and said, "Give me your second worst nightmare." So McKay dug deeper. His second worst nightmare was clowns, specifically Bozo the Clown, who had terrified him since childhood. But what scared him was not the way clowns look. It was the painted expressions hiding whatever the person underneath is actually feeling. So he used his own face as a model and painted stylized muscle patterns over it, the kind of markings that make Maul look like he is scowling and grinning at the same time. But there is one more twist. McKay's original design included black feathers sprouting from Maul's skull. When makeup designer Nick Dudman received the drawings, he misread the feathers as horns and built them that way. McKay never corrected him, and those horns became one of the most recognizable villain designs in cinema history. Number 4. The singer that wanted the Gungan. Before Ahmed Best was cast as Jar Jar Binks, there was another contender for the role, and it was the last person you'd expect. Michael Jackson personally approached George Lucas about playing Jar Jar, but with one condition. He wanted to perform the character entirely in prosthetic makeup and physical costume, the same way he'd transformed himself in his Thriller music video. Lucas turned him down. He was committed to making Jar Jar a fully computer-generated character, one of the first in film history. Ahmed Best had no idea any of this happened until years later when George Lucas brought him backstage at a Michael Jackson concert at Wembley and introduced him to Jackson as the guy who plays Jar Jar. Jackson gave a reaction. "Oh, okay." Lucas told him the full story and added that Jackson would have been bigger than the movie, and that wasn't what he wanted. Number 5. The razor that fooled a galaxy. Of all the futuristic technology in the Phantom Menace, one prop has an origin story that's almost too mundane to believe. Qui-Gon Jinn's sleek communicator device, the one he uses to contact the Jedi Council and even transmit Anakin's blood sample, was built from a resin cast of a Gillette Sensor XL women's razor. The props department took the casting, glued on a few small metal pieces, including 3 solder lugs, and called it a day. It worked so well on camera that the toy company, Hasbro, later mass-produced it as a toy. Thousands of kids played with a replica of their mom's razor and never knew it. Number 6. A villain's theme hiding in a victory song. At the end of The Phantom Menace, the heroes win. The Gungans and the people of Naboo celebrate together in a grand parade, and a joyful marching song plays as everyone cheers. That song is called Augie's Great Municipal Band, performed by a children's choir with bright, upbeat energy. But here is the secret. If you slow that melody down, drop it into a minor key, and hand it to a choir of deep bass voices, it becomes the Emperor's theme from Return of the Jedi. John Williams deliberately took the most sinister piece of music in the entire saga and disguised it as a celebration. At the 2019 Star Wars celebration in Chicago, music historian David Collins confirmed the connection and told the audience, "You think it's a victory, but it's not. The real winner at the end of The Phantom Menace is Palpatine," and Williams made sure the music told you, even if you didn't hear it. Number 7. The lightsaber noises. Nobody could stop. Both Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson had the same problem on set. They couldn't stop making lightsaber sound effects with their mouths during fight scenes. Every swing, every clash, and every dramatic move came with their own homemade humming and buzzing, like a pair of excited kids playing Jedi. The sound team couldn't use any of the audio. Lucas eventually had to tell them to stop because it was ruining takes. McGregor later admitted, "I kept getting carried away, and when you watch the final duel carefully, there's one more thing McGregor contributed. During the final duel against Darth Maul, right before Obi-Wan charges in, McGregor does a small bouncing motion. That wasn't part of the choreography. He was just excited and hyping himself up for the fight, and it stayed in the movie." Number 8. The A-lister who walked away from Maul. Before Ray Park ever put on the red and black face paint, Benicio Del Toro was cast as Darth Maul. Del Toro signed on expecting to play a fully speaking villain, but as Lucas kept revising the script, Maul's dialogue was cut further and further, reducing the character from a menacing antagonist with real screen presence to an almost entirely silent threat. Once Del Toro learned how little was left, he walked away from the project. Lucas then turned to his stunt team, where martial arts champion Ray Park had been hired as part of the crew. Stunt coordinator Nick Gillard filmed Park performing lightsaber choreography, and Lucas was so impressed he gave Park the role on the spot. But even Park's voice didn't survive. It was deemed too high-pitched for the character, so actor Peter Serafinovich dubbed over Maul's few remaining lines in post-production. Number 9. The prophecy that never existed. One of the most divisive elements of The Phantom Menace is the Chosen One prophecy. The idea that Anakin Skywalker was destined to bring balance to the Force, but in the earliest draft of the script, titled The Beginning, that prophecy didn't exist, neither did midichlorians. Instead of being identified through a blood test and a mystical destiny, Anakin was simply portrayed as a remarkably wise child. When a Jedi showed him kindness, young Anakin replied, "Kindness is a joy. Why would you reward me for that?" Lucas was writing Anakin as a young Buddha figure, someone special because of who he was, not because of a number in his bloodstream. Somewhere between that first draft and the final shooting script, Lucas decided the story needed a more concrete mechanism, and the prophecy was added. Whether the film would have been stronger without it is still one of the biggest debates in the fandom. Number 10. The Secret Sith Lord Theory. In 2015, a Reddit user named Lumpawaro posted a theory that would take over the internet. The claim was simple and outrageous. Jar Jar Binks is secretly a Sith Lord. The theory argues that Jar Jar's clumsiness is an act, a calculated performance designed to make everyone underestimate him. His survival through impossible situations, his hand gestures that mirror Jedi mind tricks, and his political rise from outcast to the senator who hands Palpatine emergency powers, none of it is accidental. Most damning of all, he and Palpatine come from the same planet Naboo. The theory got over 70,000 upvotes and caught the attention of Ahmed Best, who performed Jar Jar. In an interview, he said, "There's a lot about it that's true. Could Jar Jar have evolved into that? I think the answer is yes." He also revealed that a scene was filmed for Revenge of the Sith, showing Palpatine walking with Jar Jar and quietly thanking him for helping him rise to power. That scene was cut. Whether Darth Jar Jar was ever the real plan is a question only George Lucas can answer, and he hasn't. Number 11. The Jedi who was supposed to be Baby Yoda. When Ian McCaig was designing characters for the Jedi Council, Lucas asked him to sketch what a younger version of Yoda might look like, roughly 8 years old. McCaig produced a design, but Lucas decided not to use it for Yoda. Instead, he liked the sketch enough to have a puppet built and placed it in the Jedi Council scene as a completely new character. That character became Yaddle, a female member of Yoda's species who sits silently in the council chamber and is never addressed by name in the film. She only appears for a few seconds, but her very existence means that the first Baby Yoda wasn't Grogu from The Mandalorian. It was a concept art sketch from 1995 that accidentally became a Jedi Master. Number 12. George Lucas is hiding in this movie. For 25 years, Star Wars fans had rumored that George Lucas's face was hidden somewhere inside the Phantom Menace, but nobody could prove it. In 2025, the mystery was finally solved. Caroline Jet Green, a former digital matte painter at Industrial Light and Magic, revealed that while expanding the Theed Palace hallways for the film, she secretly placed a pixelated image of Lucas's face on a small plaque in the background. When Lucas and his team discovered it during review, the room went silent. Green recalled him saying, "Oh, naughty, naughty," followed by a long pause. Then he looked at her and said, "Okay, leave it in." And it's been there, hiding in plain sight, for more than a quarter of a century. Number 13. 300 blades of aluminum. The lightsaber duels in The Phantom Menace are widely considered some of the best in the franchise, and the physical cost to achieve them was enormous. Stunt coordinator Nick Gillard built over 300 aluminum lightsaber blades for the actors to use during training and filming. Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, and Ray Park, who played Darth Maul, fought so aggressively that the blades would bend into shapes the crew compared to coat hangers. A prop maker had to be stationed on set full-time, ready to hand over a fresh blade the moment one was destroyed. Every clash you hear in the final duel represents real physical contact, and it shows. Number 14. An ancient battle poem in disguise. The choral chanting in Duel of the Fates is not gibberish. John Williams took a stanza from an ancient Welsh poem called Cad Godoyu, which translates to the Battle of the Trees. The poem describes an ancient Celtic priest who animates an army of trees to fight on his behalf. Williams had friends at Harvard translate those lines from English into Sanskrit, which he chose because he loved the sound of the vowels. He then rearranged the Sanskrit syllables so the original meaning would be buried, but the rhythm would remain. For Williams, this wasn't just a lightsaber fight, it was a ceremony. He described the choir as giving the scene a temple-like, almost religious quality, as if Qui-Gon and Maul weren't just fighting, but performing a sacred ritual that could only end with one of them dead. The piece was originally composed for the end credits and then cut to fit the picture. Number 15. Vader's first fight was on the playground. A fully filmed deleted scene shows a young Anakin getting into a fistfight with a young Rodian named Greedo, the same Greedo that Han Solo famously kills in the cantina in A New Hope. In the scene, Greedo accuses Anakin of cheating to win the Boonton Eve pod race. Anakin tackles him to the ground and starts swinging before Qui-Gon arrives to pull them apart. The scene was completed but deliberately cut by Lucas because he wanted Anakin to appear purely good as a child, someone whose fall to the dark side would feel like a genuine tragedy rather than an inevitability. It survives on the DVD release, and it's a strange thing to watch, knowing both boys will eventually die violently at the hands of the heroes we root for. Number 16, Tupac almost joined the Jedi Council. Before Samuel L. Jackson became the definitive Mace Windu, another icon was in the running. According to Rick Clifford, a former chief engineer at Death Row Records, rapper and actor Tupac Shakur was being considered for the role in 1996. Clifford later told Rolling Stone, "He was telling me that he was supposed to read for George Lucas and them. They wanted him to be a Jedi. Samuel L. got Tupac's part." Tupac was murdered in September of that year, a little over a year before filming began. Had he lived and been cast, Mace Windu would have been a radically different character. Tupac was in his mid-20s, Samuel L. Jackson was in his 50s, and it was Jackson who personally lobbied for the purple lightsaber that made Windu iconic. That creative choice might never have happened. 25 years later, the Phantom Menace is still revealing itself. Beneath the Senate debates and the pod race and Jar Jar's slapstick, there are layers of foreshadowing, hidden connections, and discarded ideas that show just how deep George Lucas was thinking, even when the execution didn't always land. So here's the question. Knowing what you know now, does the Phantom Menace work better than you remember? Let us know in the comments. If this video surprised you, hit subscribe, because we do this every single week for the films that shaped your childhood.